Good morning, everybody. It's the Prairie Banana over on Pulse Chain. We're going to talk about pTGC and UFO. Super Snakes, good to see you in the chat. Let's put that chat up on the screen so everybody can see it. Good morning, everybody. We do spaces on X, Twitter, on my phone, which is right here. It's up to the mic so you guys can hear the conversation on X. And then if you guys have comments or questions, put them in the comment section on YouTube, and I will comment for you. So we're always welcome to. I'm going to drop this blind down just a little bit. I got a blind right here. That way the sun is not so bright on my face. Hope you guys are doing good. We have the founder in here. We're just going to have a conversation about the two index tokens on Pulse Chain, pTGC and UFO, that pay you and me rewards 24/7 forever, as long as we hold, on Pulse Chain. And they're an index of all the best assets on the chain. Join the space. Make sure my volume is up. Accept to speak. Fight the mic here a little bit. Good morning.
Good morning, Banana. How you doing?
I'm doing good. How are you, man?
Another day, drinking my cup of coffee and hanging out.
Yeah. I got my coffee. Haven't even sipped it yet. I'm about to. Super Snakes in the chat. I'm sure there's other people going to be coming in. 8 people on YouTube already. Wow. Good job, guys. 2 people on X. Well, let's see how many people are in the spaces. Shaka's here, and JP, Watchman, JCM, Tur. It's going to be quiet today.
Yeah, all of crypto is pretty quiet right now.
Yeah. It is. And for good reason. The builders are still here. Well, some of the builders are out touching grass too, you know.
Yeah, 100%. It's not a bad time to do that. Yeah. If you're not working on building a community up and increasing the community, you're not working on building your position, then probably the best thing you can do is go touch some grass. Prices are low, not super awesome to look at, but
yeah,
we've had at least, it's not helped the price drastically and it hasn't helped Pulse Chain drastically, but it's been nice this week to see that the Clarity Act seems to be getting pushed forward.
Yeah, I've seen some comments on it, if I could put it that way. Like, I've seen a couple senators, or maybe it's just one, and I saw it a couple times, but she was like, guys, get your act together. Let's pass this thing, because if we don't do it now, it might be a while before we do.
Yeah. Yeah, I was reading something that they came to an agreement, and hopefully we have something within a couple weeks. Which the more clarity we have on it, the more institutions, governments, companies are going to load up on cryptocurrency.
Oh, yeah, man.
If we can increase the value of, the main dogs, I'm not saying they're coming into pTGC or coming into Pulse Chain, but if we can get ETH at 4K or 6K or 8K because institutions, government companies are loading up and using them as a place to store value, this is great for the assets that are tied to it, like Pulse Chain and pTGC.
Yeah.
And it's great for the people, obviously the increasing price of ETH increases everything that's bonded to it, just like on Pulse Chain. Well, then that creates a little bit of an alt season within ETH tokens. And when there's alt seasons on ETH tokens, usually there's alt seasons on, to an extent, every chain. Every chain has its own legit season harder than the rest. You'll see them go in phases, but usually when one of them's going, the rest are at least doing something. So that'll be good to see too. If we can get some price action on ETH, that's a huge trigger to alt season because it starts the pump. Or alts can start moving before ETH, and then ETH can just add to the pump. That's happened too. Previously on Pulse Chain, that kind of happened with pTGC. Like we'll start our pump, and Pulse Chain will move up a little bit, but nothing crazy. But then Pulse Chain in the middle of our pump will kind of give it that extra push up. Our all-time high, we actually pushed like 2 months after Pulse Chain as well. But Pulse Chain helping for those couple months in the middle makes a big difference because of the X multiplier.
Yeah. Well, ETH is into its second green month, which is great. What about Bitcoin? And Blue Diesel, no, Pulse Chain Wheezy said something funny in the comment section on YouTube. He says, this is the adult version of the Saturday morning cartoons as a kid. I agree. Let's see. Let's look at Bitcoin on the monthly. You know, I don't know if you can hear it, but there's a garble noise, I think, whenever I talk. Can you hear it?
I don't hear it, but let me pause out while you're talking to see if that helps at all.
Yeah, I've heard it before. I heard it when we streamed with Dolan the other week. I don't know what is causing it. I haven't changed anything. Yeah, Bitcoin is in its second green month too, since October. So we just watch it. Can't necessarily control it. We can control our responses, and we control, you know, somewhat what goes on in the Grays community. But
well, I think Pulse Chain's on its 9th green month in a row, which is crazy.
Maybe green?
You mean red month?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, sorry, red month. Yeah, red month.
Would be nice if it was green.
Yeah, I mean red month. It might be green right now, but it was for sure red just a couple days ago.
It's green now. So 8 months of red, and then this month's green.
Which makes sense. You go down for 8 months. You know, it really does look like Pulse Chain's finding a bottom down here. I hope it's finding a bottom down here. I don't think it needs to go much lower. It could, but you know, 8 months straight of red is pretty tough. And you know, Bitcoin with I think had 7 months, ETH had 7 months. Everything was at least due for a little bit of a bounce, like a relief rally of some kind. That doesn't mean it can't go lower, but you know, definitely due for a little bit of a bounce. And I was actually looking at the ETH chart last cycle, and the bottom on the ETH chart last cycle was made within 7 months of the high. So we've already done 7 months of red this cycle. Last cycle, it only took 7 months. There was 7 months of like sideways action though. So it just sat in that range for like 7 more months. We very, very easily could just see that again. Last cycle, it slightly trended up. I don't think that's a guarantee this cycle. It slightly trends up. It could slightly trend sideways. It could slightly trend down. But I did think that was interesting that the all-time or the cycle low last cycle was made in 7 months. We've already done 7 months. We actually had straight 7 months of red.
Yeah, the question at this point for me, guys, is who's left on chain that has any actual real profits, right? There's like multiple ecosystems. Like there used to be like the Tang Gang. They're toasted. They're not even around.
Wow.
You know, there's the Solid X crew. He's
Yeah.
gone.
Yeah.
I mean, who on Pulse Chain's in profits? And if you're in the cores, you're not in profits. Original sacrifices are way not in profits. If you sacrifice for ProveX, you're sitting on maybe just over a 2x. There's just not a lot of profit left to sell, right? So it's just interesting that this is where we are. How much further can it go down? It's almost like it's just people willing to either sell for a loss, or they're in the last few things like pTGC's ecosystem, whatever, and they're swapping it for stables and getting out. But you're right, Zen. I mean, I don't think that there's a ton left of people that either want to sell here or are even in profits.
pTGC's 24-hour volume is up 83%. It's at 56,000 right now, which is great because the price is low. So that
where did that come from, Prairie?
pTGC-UFO.com.
No. Where do you think that extra volume came from?
Yeah, good question. Wasn't there something going on with ProveX yesterday? I want to say there was a good ProveX pump or something happened yesterday. Yeah, ProveX is up 10%, but I don't know how much of I'd have to look to see how much of the volume is from ProveX. It's $1,300 from ProveX right now, but it's up 10%. That's cool. So I don't know what to attribute the volume to, although 50,000 is not a ton of volume. It's just nice. It's a good amount of volume considering where the price is, because I know we're stacking up some pretty good rewards here with that amount of volume.
Yeah, I think a little bit of it, Mando, was the market. There was a little bit of volatility on the chain yesterday. You had someone pretty much dump RH cores for ProveX, which is kind of what we want in our system, is people trading the cores, because that's a lot of the value that we have. So even though ProveX went up, RH cores went down, then that's what we generate revenue off of. So just because you don't see a lot of volume in that specific ProveX pair doesn't mean there wasn't like other triggers with some of our larger pairs that happened during that event. Because of those movements. And then on top of that, there's distribution going on right now too. So some people are still, like you said, selling in the stables. Who knows if they need the money? Who knows if they just think the market's going lower and they're trying to buy back lower, they're trying to trade. Or, who knows? There's really no telling. It's every individual. But I saw a sell yesterday, and then I've also seen some buys yesterday. So what it kind of created was an even situation where these users kind of scooped a little bit of a dip. This user obviously wanted some stables for who knows what reason, but a distribution process is going on right now too. And that's where a portion of the volume came from as well.
Super Snake says there's a wallet dumping 10 million clips of hex into ProveX. About 50,000 sold over several hours.
That was yesterday too, pretty much. So probably today as well.
Sure.
Maybe he can confirm. I think that same thing was happening maybe 20 hours ago yesterday. So maybe it's doing it again today.
Yep, perhaps. Hey, we added eight wallets yesterday, man. The last 24 hours.
Yeah, so you have some people selling, but then you have new people taking on that position. That's where a little bit of that volume is coming from too. And I think that's honestly one of the most important metrics for us at these levels is increasing our community size. Like we know that there's only roughly 3% of tokens in LP for technically the rest of the world whenever this thing goes. Whenever Pulse Chain gets adoption, whenever we can get our own, massive adoption, And we know that people are going to take profits here or there overall compared to most cryptocurrencies like X, like ETH, like Shiba Inu. Like I think we actually have a stronger holder set than most of these large tokens. I think our holders are pretty much like as strong as they come, but that doesn't mean there isn't going to be sellers. But if we're replacing them or replacing portions of their sales or whatever it is by new community members coming in, getting a brand new experience, and if we turn this thing around, it will be massive for pTGC. Just increasing our holders by 1,000 people is a big deal. There's only, I counted it yesterday, there's only roughly 700 people in pTGC that have $3,000 or more, or not people, wallets, that have $3,000 of pTGC or more. Only 3,000 people for their hold wallets in the entire world. Like, it's so micro. UFO, I think 500 is also like 600 or something like that. $500 of UFO, there's only 600 people. So, you know, increasing our bigger holders by 1,000 or, you know, decent sized holders by 1,000, it's a big deal at these low prices. And this is how every token has created its own success story. Is it's one new person at a time. It's then price starts moving up because you're getting new people, and then also the market shifts. Those new people start telling other new people, and you start that chain reaction. But you can't expect the gains that I think everyone wants out of pTGC. We can get a lot of gains from our bonded liquidity. We can get a lot of gains from the buy and burns we do from the value we generate. But we can get a huge multiplier to the gains we all would love. You know, I think everyone here would love by onboarding to this community. And you can focus on other people doing all that work for you, or you could say, hey, I can do a little bit of this. Maybe it's one or two people, and be a contributing community member to this ecosystem.
I think, Zen, that for the most part, like in any kind of like large numbers, I think that a lot of people want to see a reversal on Pulse Chain for anything. And that's the issue, you know, for the large amount of people.
I think that's the issue for Pulse Chain in general right now.
Yeah.
Everyone's onboarded and prices kept going down. So people are tired of knocking on the doors, which then creates more down because no one is bringing in new community members right now. And for a cryptocurrency to be successful, even with utility, even with, you know, buy and burns and generating revenue off of things, increasing the community size, in my opinion, is the most important thing. You're going to get X's that way. You're going to get continuous growth that way. The system continues to evolve and become more sustainable with more users. But if you just stop that, you know, you have the situation that Pulse Chain's kind of in right now, where no one feels comfortable onboarding because people keep getting sold on, but then price never moves up.
Yeah, but I think it's interesting to note that specific to the Grays, the way that I am talking to people is that I believe that this is the speculation of a lifetime, right? So whatever amount of capital you have to learn and to speculate with, maybe a little bit of your Las Vegas money or whatever money, you know, speculation back, you know. We remember probably the just in case bag, dude, right?
Yeah.
The just in case bag. I think it's important because right now we're starting to get into that phase, that season of everybody feels gloom and doom. It's not just the markets, it's just like gloom and doom mindset with everything going on. Those are generally like really good times to buy things. But technically, I don't think TA wise, like what the big boys look for, technically we're not there yet, right? The cycle's not played out completely yet. But the issue is that when it does, that turnaround happens so fast. And this is why I think you keep talking about just the importance of just kind of down here at this level, especially with this system, having, you know, just a very simple, light DCA strategy. Because the guys that try to get greedy guessing the exact bottom, they generally don't, right? This is a very close to the all-time low of where the token hit. But I think that the second that this thing turns around and the second that Bitcoin and ETH have a confirmed uptrend and Pulse Chain has a confirmed uptrend, dude, you're going to see a massive influx of capital into this protocol. And it's going to give an instant like 2-3x, just boom, because people don't want to miss the next cycle.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think, like you said, it's not easy to grab that exact bottom, but a range of the bottom is still very, very good. And like you said, it can go up 3x very quickly. And I feel like those X's are so important because that's the difference between 100x and a 30x.
It's a big difference.
It's a big difference, yeah. And obviously, like, let's say you took action now, roughly a 30 mil market cap on pTGC, and price on Pulse Chain, like, prices can move so quick on Pulse Chain, it's actually insane. Not saying it's going to move, but they can move. And let's say next thing you know, we're at 100 mil market cap. Well, you just missed out on those 3X's. That doesn't mean pTGC can't go to a 20 mil market cap or a 15 mil market cap. But going back to the DCA strategy, I personally sleep better at night knowing I'm exposed to the X's when they start to come over the fact of I could miss them at any moment. And, you know, those X's can go quick. You might think, you know, even if it bumps up to 100 mil market cap, a lot of people think, okay, there's going to be a retracement there and I'll scoop the retracement. They start telling themselves that because they don't want to buy the 100 mil. And then next thing you know, they waited a month and it's at 200 mil. And then that opportunity to change your life has kind of disappeared because now you need 7 times the amount of value to get that same bag. And you're hunting the next one. But really, we all know like 99.9% of tokens that launch in cryptocurrency are not the next one. So then you're stuck in the same cycle of trying to find the right one. And it's like finding a needle in a haystack. And I think this system has proven that it's got a good chance to be one of the biggest movers in this next cycle. We have pretty much everything we need, I would say. And we've showed that last cycle. We were one of the biggest movers last cycle. We went from a launch token all the way to a 400 mil market cap with not 1x from the blockchain we're built on. And now we're sitting at pretty much a 10x lower price than our launch price. And yeah, I just have to feel like, you know, yes, you could wait for a lower level and hope that it comes. It very well could. Or you can just get on board and be exposed and then work with the community to increase the token size, community size, your own portfolio size, and just win with the protocol.
Well, if it's me, you have to be very practical right now, just in your strategy, your entry strategy, because like, for example, taking a position in something like pTGC right now, for me personally, when we're just, you know, having a very intimate connection to it, this is an amazing place to come in, right? But if you're saying, okay, I've got 10 grand I want to put in or whatever it is, okay, go ahead, put in a third at 30 million. If it goes to 20 million, put in a third. If it goes to 10 million and you put in a third, you just massively reduced your cost basis. Now, you have to ask yourself the question, where do you think the Armageddon price could be before a turnaround? To me, like the sky is falling, Revelation chapter 4, the apocalypse of the four horsemen hit pTGC. Dude, it's like $10-15 million market cap, dude. So you're not getting, to me, I'm in my mindset, I'm not saying, oh wow, I'm gonna go and get this astronomical drawdown, because technically the math just doesn't support it. We just had you guys know I've always watched the top 50 wallets, and for the first time in the top 50, we now have the number 50th wallet now only holds 896 million tokens. So that's the first time I've seen an 8 in the top 50 list.
Wow.
And I've always brought that up to you guys, because what that means is that the distribution is diluting. So in other words, what I mean by that is the ability for, the weight of distribution. We now have a top 50 holder holding that 50th spot with only 893 million tokens. So the ability for certain people to just sell off, and then we also have the ability to look at what the remaining holders have done. Everybody's pretty much holding. So we know it's tax season. That guy that just sold whatever the other day, he could just be like, hey, I just did my taxes. I need to pay my taxes. We're April 15th is coming up in just a few days. That always stifles kind of this season too, in business and in crypto, because people are wanting to know if they're going to owe anything or how much money they're going to get back. But going back to the distribution, dude, the distribution, when we hit this certain point where it's going to happen, where everything hits at the same time, and you're left with these OG holders that have just held this whole time, and they know how this system works. And that's why they're only willing to take, a $5,000 clip, at the end of the month, because they don't want to sell it. And I feel like what we're seeing now is we're seeing the holder base in the top 50 for sure. It's like, they're like, I don't want to sell it holders. There's a couple wallets that sell, but it doesn't matter because the system just keeps buying those tokens and burning them out of existence. So it's getting really down to the nitty gritty, because in a lot of those top 50s, you also have 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 7 of those top 50 wallets are LPs. Then you have the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, the 6th wallet. So that's another wallet, which is the Treasury wallet. So that's an 8th wallet out of the top 50. So out of the top 50, you have 8 wallets. 7 are LPs. One's the pTGC Treasury, which is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So it's 50, 49, 48, 47, 46. Wallet number 45, which is just under $1 billion pulse in that wallet. So the distribution to me is just getting insane. And you have to ask yourself the question legitimately, what's the the horseman of apocalypse price for pTGC at this point? Everything's at all-time lows. And do you really think that you're going to get it? Okay, well, instead of playing the guessing game, just be smart. Deploy some capital here, deploy it at 25, deploy it at 20, deploy it at 15. And the average dollar cost averaged price down to that floor at this point is like the best strategy to do, in my opinion. I'd like to hear anybody's thoughts on that. But I don't think it's reasonable based on the math to think, you're going to get some just MAGA sell-off down to some strange level. It's just, the math just doesn't support it for me. And if it did,
I personally think we're in the mega sell-off.
Well, I mean, for example, let me give you an example. Everybody is always wanting this, like, people want PTGC to go down to like $5 million market cap or 10 million, but they don't understand that if somebody sold that much at one time, there's so many people ready to buy that if you weren't sitting at your computer, because there's no limit orders on the chain, unless maybe there is with the switch, you're going to miss it.
I think Liberty Swap might have theirs out too. I just don't know if fee on transaction tokens work for it.
Yeah, and so how would you like to set up a limit order and it goes down, but because you thought it was going to go too low, it was going to go too low, you don't get your order filled. So that's the other issue, is that you're getting greedy, and because of that, your order passes you by. Right?
It'd be so sad.
I guess what I'm saying, Zen, is the distribution is getting real, bro. It's getting serious.
Yeah, it's,
everybody that's here right now knows what they own.
Yeah, the distribution is getting really good, and I feel like if we utilize these low prices to just keep distributing supply, getting new people in, if that could be already existing Pulse Chain people who were in for a little bit, took profits and left, they should get a bag again at the bottom. If that's other blockchain people, if that's Pulse Chain people that have never even grabbed the bag before, or if it's IRL people. We have a lot of different avenues we can take to onboard to the system, but the truth is even though distribution is getting so good, you look at, who's been really even buying the token. It's new people, some people building their bags. The DAO itself has spent over $1 million in the last year buying and burning. UFO spent like $200,000 in the last year. pTGC itself has spent $150,000 in the last year. It's getting really, really strong at these levels, which is important. And if the prices stay low, it just gives us more time to keep distributing, keep onboarding at great prices. That's like my big thing is, if you're going to onboard someone IRL, it's better to do it at the closest you can get to the Pico bottom, because everyone knows what it's like to onboard someone IRL and prices not to move up with them. It's
I've done that a lot.
It does suck. It really does. Like I've done it. I'm sure everyone here has onboarded someone IRL, and it really does suck when it works in the other direction. It sucks even when you're onboarding people that aren't IRL people, just people you've met, throughout crypto Twitter, and prices move down. Like my personal goal is, to make it to where, and this is, no expectations of the work from me. I'm just a community member. It's renounced code that's just doing what it's doing. I'm very passionate about it, but like my goal as a community member is to make it so anyone who's ever gotten into pTGC is in profits, right? This is kind of what Bitcoin and Ethereum has done. You could have bought the top of the previous cycle, but as long as you held on and you're a community member and you had patience, you were able to get yourself in profits by the next cycle, especially if you DCA'd the low once you actually realized what you hold. Like a lot of people get brought in at the top, and they're good if they hold into the next cycle if they have the right product, but they're really good if they learn the product and then DCA the low, a year or so later, because then they get into a lot of profits. But that's kind of why I keep hitting the hard with at these steep prices. I believe is the time you reach out to the IRL people, because it's the easiest time for us to get those people into profits and the least risky. Because if you wait till after a 10x when it's easier and you can like show them a portfolio or show them the gains, which is obviously the easiest way to onboard people. Green Candles always onboard people. That's the riskier time to start bringing them in. And I think even though it's tougher to do, it's more rewarding to do at these low levels, because you're going to get that user up in X's quicker. If you're using the affiliate system, you're going to get yourself more tokens, which obviously is a benefit. And then also it's going to help the system more. $10,000 in now from an IRL person is a whole lot different than $10,000 after we've done a 10X. It's a huge difference for what it does to the protocol.
Yeah, it's getting interesting.
And like you said, like what else can send Pulse Chain really lower, right? Like we've pretty much battled through every single thing you could imagine. There hasn't been an alt season in probably a year and a half, like any sort of an alt season since Trump's been elected.
Mm-hmm.
You've pretty much had Pulse Chain as a whole fight off anything you can imagine. It's down 95% from pretty much its sacrifice price. Could go lower, but I kind of see it bottoming here, especially if ETH doesn't make like super large all-time lows. And ETH, in my opinion, looks like it's doing pretty good about kind of forming a bottom. It's already done a 60% retracement even from the previous all-time high, which I think is important to pay attention to because no one really got put into massive profits on Ethereum this cycle. And usually when users aren't put into massive profits, the pullback isn't as large because you don't have to buy out the gains that you've given people. When you put someone in a ton of profits, usually the retracement's a little bit more because of the volatility. So I don't know. I personally think this is the time to reach out, and it's going to help pTGC. It possibly could help you if you're using the affiliate system. And I think it's an opportunity to help people IRL who are looking for opportunities to possibly change their life forever because there was really not a lot of opportunities out there. And then in cryptocurrency, the door can close very, very quickly.
Crypto Stylist asked a question on YouTube. She's, you've heard about the, what do they call it? I got to get my eyes on it. The quantum computing. And I've heard the references to it on X, and you guys probably have too, and I've also heard it refuted. So we'd just like to get your thoughts on that, Zen.
Well, I have heard Vitalik is spending a lot of money and a lot of dev time on counteracting that. And he's, I believe, made the claims that Ethereum will not be at risk to that. And I believe Richard will take on, because we're a fork of Ethereum, anything that's necessary to keep this chain safe as well. That's the pro of being a fork of Ethereum, is you can kind of lean on the fact that Vitalik's going to spend millions and millions and millions of dollars to make sure his chain remains top dog for security, in my opinion. And then we get to pretty much adopt all those features for zero cost.
Yeah.
Yeah, I saw that interview, Zen, where he specifically talked about that, and he actually was very confident that based on what they see, Ethereum's already the standard for that, which is interesting.
Yeah, I think that part's becoming very clear. Like, there's chains out there that are so fast and so smooth, but there's risk happening all the time. There's just issues happening all the time where there's hacks of bridges, which exits a lot of value, or if it just has pretty much points where it has to be turned off temporarily and stuff like that, where Ethereum has had this just amazing track record. Obviously, there's been hacks and stuff like that with specific protocols on the chain, but as far as Ethereum itself goes, it's proven, to be very, very stout and a great place for companies, institutions, new stable coins that launch, which obviously is like the biggest value situation right now. Like literally the market cap of stablecoins just keeps increasing and increasing and increasing. I think it's pretty obvious that that's where they're building. And this is great for us because that means Ethereum isn't going to, you know, fade away like MySpace. You know, we want to see everyone building on top of Ethereum because we're a fork of Ethereum. And obviously, our founder owns a lot of Ethereum, which doesn't have to benefit us, but I think could. And I like the idea of it. So I think we have to root on Ethereum getting as much adoption as possible. The gas fee situation being fixed, I think is really good for builders on Ethereum. I think that's going to bring builders back to Ethereum to where they're kind of looking for other places to build because of it pretty much being impossible to have DeFi or really anything on Ethereum 5 years ago. So the fact that that's kind of fixed now, the fact that they're showing that they're spending tons of money making sure it's the most robust and stout system out there, I personally think that's a great, if you're worried about it, being in products tied to or copies of or even Ethereum itself is a very safe place to be in the cryptocurrency world compared to a lot of other things out there, because a lot of the stuff that is new or changing things, like there is risk involved there. And Ethereum, I think, has definitely proven to be one of the least risky. And I think one thing that's always stood out to me about Richard is maybe the price has been risky, but the robustness of the chain and the robustness of the bridge and the operation of the products that he puts out have been very, very strong. And I appreciate that because really that's the most important thing is, you know, this chain not getting wiped out because of a hack vector or something like that.
And if you think about it, you know, this AI stuff came out, I think it was in 2023 or 22. You know, ChatGPT made its debut. I don't remember what the year. I think it was 23. But, you know, we're going into the next cycle with AI, not only AI, but also this quantum computing thing. So this next cycle is going to be, you know, interesting. You know, not only from
cycles evolved so much. This is why our DAO is so powerful. You know,
yes,
most cryptocurrencies, I don't see how you could ever launch a cryptocurrency and adapt to the following cycle 4 years prior. This industry is changing so quick. It's insane, really. Even in 2 years, peak of this cycle, or you know, wherever we are 2 years from now, I'm hoping really awesome prices. But I think pTGC's DAO and what we're able to do with it is going to be just an amazing tool for this community, however it gets used.
Yep, that's a great point. I mean, not only is the marketing going to be different this cycle, but like there are even bots, you know, that are trading for people, AI bots probably, you know, then so that, yeah, this cycle, the next one is going to be very different than the previous one.
So, yeah, on that topic, I think crypto in general has evolved a lot by the trading idea. And this could be bot, or this could just be indicators, or this could just be people learning. And you don't hear like that strong hodl mentality as much as we used to in cryptocurrency, right? Like a lot of people within even the main tokens like Bitcoin and Ethereum, like it was really never too much about the cycles and trading the cycles, getting in, getting out, getting in, getting out. It was more about hodling long term. And when the dips come, that's when you onboard, that's when you educate, that's when you fill your bags. And then obviously things go up. But I've seen a huge rotation in the last cycle. A lot of people are trading now. A lot of people are actually exiting at the tops and trying to get back in at the bottom. A lot of people are leverage trading. And I think it's only getting worse. Like, I think that's why even alt seasons are going to become worse and worse and worse because people are not willing to hodl anymore. They just, as soon as they get some X's, they just exit and try to get into the next thing. They do not want to be part of projects long term, even if they say they want to. In the back of their head, they don't, right? And I think the alt seasons for the majority of cryptocurrency is going to be very, very poor. Like, it's not going to be like 5 years ago where literally you could throw money at absolutely anything and they're doing extreme amounts of X's. I think they're going to get cheated very, very quickly. And a lot of people are going to be left holding the bags of pretty much rug pulls to an extent. Where that's where I think pTGC is very much going to thrive and really show the strength of it is I think the X's within pTGC, because of our community, is strong and they're good at hodling, because of the features we have within our code, the buy and burns that can, keep raising the price floor of the ecosystem. Our bonded liquidity with things that are already extremely undervalued, like the things that we're bonded with aren't up hundreds of X's, they're literally down 95%. And then obviously just the onboarding we can do on our own. I think pTGC is going to be a standout place to actually get X's in this next alt season, where I think people will be amazed about how difficult those legit sustainable X's are going to be able to find in this coming cycle. I think even the good projects, which there will be very few, will have a lot of cheats in them just due to the environment of cryptocurrency and AI and people trading with AI telling them to exit, so on and so forth.
Yeah, Zen, on the monthly, Prairie, I sent you over an image on the monthly for Pulse and X, because nobody can post to the nest anymore, by the way, guys. I keep asking you guys this. Got to check the settings because speakers can't post to the nest. I can't.
Okay.
So
I'll check
I haven't
that.
been able to post to the nest now for like months, and I keep letting you guys know, and it just doesn't allow it. So something's wrong.
Well, Banana is just a speaker, and he posted to the nest.
Yeah, it's just weird. I don't know why.
Haven't changed anything, but I'll look at it, Nando.
Okay, let me see if I can do that now.
I'll let you
take
know.
a look. Yeah, take a look in there, and this has pulse bottoms. It's just a catch line. Let me see if I can do it.
Ooh. I'll get it for you guys on YouTube.
Okay, so there's that. Message changed, like share via. No. It just doesn't give me an option to share it in the space that I'm in. It used to just say like you're in the nest.
So for me, it's all the, like, I have to push that bar like really far to the right and look down the line of the options. It's not one of the first options for me.
Got it. I see it now.
Okay.
Is it there? Yes. Okay, there. Perfect. Thank
Okay,
you.
cool.
Yeah, that's odd. Okay. So if you look at that chart on the monthly, I just pulled like the retracements from each monthly candle, and they were like 29% up to 48% retracements in those 8 candles that you were talking about. And then we have that first monthly print of a green.
Yeah.
And it was a little bit on a wick higher high. I mean, a higher low. And we printed a green. But basically, it's just a flat. It just like went flat. So it hit on that first red on the monthly. And then this month, it just kind of flattened out, right? So in March, it basically did what it did, printed that red candle. And then in April, we're in April. So obviously we have to close out this month.
Yeah.
right? It can't just keep going, but the month has to close. But it kind of like wants to go up. But I'll be honest with you, man, I don't know. But what my point is that if you look at the chart, it's just there's not a lot of velocity behind it, like behind the down at the moment, you know? So I'm tending to agree with you. You keep saying that, you know, it's looking pretty bottomed, you know, on the monthly. We had 8 months of just kind of cascading, and I don't think that there's going to be any more like cascading downs, but each wick has been on average about 30%, or each candle has been about 30% down. So if you did a 30% from the close, again, we would close down at, you know, 5 zeros and like a 5 on the next candle.
Yeah, and that 5 zeros and a 5 number for Pulse Chain, I think is super powerful, because that's a 95% dip from the sacrifice price. That's a 20x back to levels. Like, I think if it did go down there, which is very easily, with, you know, the amount of liquidity on chain, there's very little liquidity. Definitely no one's really bringing in tons of new users right now because they're just scared. We were talking about that earlier. No one wants to hit up people IRL for prices to go down lower. Like, they've experienced that. It kind of sucks. I think you're right there. They're waiting for that confirmation of the uptrend of the shift in the market, reversals on Bitcoin and Ethereum, which when you look at the weekly on Ethereum, the MACD is about to cross. You know, this could just be a little bit of a relief rally if it does cross, but I do think that's a good sign of us kind of confirming a couple of those low levels. And it obviously could test again. It could obviously break lower with bad news. And, you know, the fact that anything can happen, especially with Trump in office, you know, you have no idea what new war situation is going to come about, but good news can come very quick as well. And these prices can disappear quickly as well. So I do think in general, these levels are awesome. I think in pTGC alone, like, it's a great place because it's a sub token that even if the market goes down, you have no idea what we could do on our own to make sure we're still staying at a good price or moving up. We've proven to do that in the past. Like I brought up, we got to a 400 million market cap with Pulse Chain being the exact same price that we launched at. Yep. Like, that's a crazy amount of X's. And that's not going to a 5 mil market cap. Like, that's a 400 mil market cap. That got us in the top 200 of all cryptocurrencies. With a lot of the cryptocurrencies that we're competing against, we're on chains that have done X's and on chains that actually have users. You know, we're very, very small in the user base on Pulse Chain. So the proof that we've been able to get to those numbers with everything against us, I think, kind of highlights this community and highlights the code of pTGC as well. But I definitely think these ranges are worth at least being partially bullish on. If you're someone who thinks it's going lower, all as I personally would suggest, no financial advice, would be just don't be all in or all out. Make sure you have a horse in the race in case things start to go very quickly.
Well, Zen, the sacrifice price that you're speaking of is the 3 zeros and a 1, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yes. Okay. The real sacrifice price is like more like 4 zeros and a 2.8.
Which we're still currently pretty far down from that.
Well, we are. But my point is that to get a 95% retracement from the real sacrifice price, which was the people who came in with the real money, not the guy with $1,000. You're looking at a 5 zeros and a 1.4. from the current price. So 50014. That would take the chain down about 80% from here. And then the biggest sacrificer, like a Rackham or any of these guys, they'd literally be down 95%. So to me, that would represent the complete nukage of the chain, down 95% for the biggest investors. They're currently from that price, you're looking at they're down 73%.
Yeah.
So when the reason why I'm saying that is that puts it into perspective. The biggest guys that sacked are already down 73%. There's not much more to go. In general, it's 95%.
A lot of the big sacrificers, I saw a post, I don't remember the exact details of it, but it was something like they were looking at the top 100 sacrificers, and 80% of them are already gone.
Yeah.
So I think it's also interesting to pay attention to when you kind of ask yourself, well, why are we at this price? Like, why are we here? And it's because those biggest sacrificers were in profits at higher levels, and they've slowly been taking profits, and we've been distributing the token supply. But a lot of them are gone. A lot of the
But
stuff.
it's also Zen, because a lot of people made a lot of money on Pulse Chain, shitcoining, meme coining, being active on the chain, and took money off the chain. It's also because a lot of stuff scammed money off the chain. A lot of stuff got exploited off the chain. There's a lot of stuff that happened on this chain. Right?
Yeah, and we all, as a community, we have to take in mind, like, the people making money on alt tokens has been on every chain. They've still been able to be successful. Exploits have happened on every chain. They've still been able to be successful. So just because we've experienced little things like that too, doesn't mean we shouldn't be successful, right? This stuff happens on every
100%.
chain. Yeah.
No, it's just a little bit more impacting when you're in a lower liquidity environment,
Definitely.
But,
Pulse Chain is pretty much set up as a meme coin at this point. Like, literally, meme tokens that are just like in the top 200 of cryptocurrency have more daily volume activity than Pulse Chain as an entire chain. They have more liquidity than Pulse Chain as an entire chain. Some of them. So definitely when money gets handed over to someone, they just exit, it hurts this chain. An exploit for sure hurts this chain because they are very illiquid. But I also think that highlights, like, hey, if everyone stands strong, get in the plays you think are solid plays, hodl strong, onboard to the good projects, don't onboard them to the scams and stuff.
Yeah.
And when value starts coming in, like, we can move up very, very quick. And just don't throw money around like it's casino money. Like, hey, like, if it remains in your wallet, if it remains in strong communities and strong tokens, and those communities respect that value, it's very difficult to get extracted. What happens is when people get greedy and they start throwing money at all these random things that are usually scams, well, that money doesn't stay on the chain. It exits your wallet and then exits the chain. So we all get like double hit. You get hit because it was your personal funds, but then everyone gets hit because the money actually leaves. And it's leaving with people who aren't even like strong believers in the chain. They literally are just here to extract. So, in this next run, I think everyone should kind of take a lesson from the past and just pay attention to, like, who's here grinding for Pulse Chain as a whole, what products are here for Pulse Chain as a whole, what products are helping increase the value of Pulse Chain as a whole, and support those, keep value in those. Obviously, if you're a degener kind of guy, degen at your own risk, but there is risk involved there. And it's not only risk to you, but it's also to a point risk to the chain, because any sort of pulse chain that we hand over to people who just want to exit, it affects everyone because we're so illiquid. Anyone big and good and anyone that wants to add to pulse chain that we can bring in is obviously a huge benefit. That's how illiquid we are. And I definitely don't think people should forget, like, there's bridge amounts that are coming in like twice a week right now of like 100K, and those values are just sitting dormant. And if you remember, I think it was like 6 months ago now when the ProveX sacrifice went. After the sacrifice ended, so maybe that's like 4 months ago, some of those wallets woke up and started buying PulseX. And I think it spent like $1 million buying PulseX, pumped it up like 100% in a matter of a day, sadly got sold into, and then Richard even comments in his video, someone pumped up the price 100%, but then the community just sold into it. So I guess the sell pressure isn't gone. I just think everyone should kind of realize where we're at now. We're at even lower levels, but the value is still randomly getting bridged and just sitting there. And what that means to me is, hey, there's big players, if it's Richard or not, who are that have a plan and they're setting their pieces in place for when it's go time. But the pieces are being set in place. I don't think that value is being set there just because they want to hold their value on Pulse Chain. Makes no sense.
I agree with that. For Crypto Stylist, I just put in the nest the video where Vitalik is specifically speaking about quantum computer risk specific to ETH. You just take the video to timeline 54:30, 54 minutes in, and he'll specifically be talking about that. So you can listen to that. And it's good to see you in here.
Yeah, it's going to be really interesting when we get out of these really far lows of Pulse Chain. I'm excited to see how the community comes out, because it's a lot of X's back to pretty low numbers. You know, we can get back to sack price and we're up like half a sack price, and we're up like 7x. Pulse Chain in its lifespan has never even gone up 7x. So I definitely think that's going to be interesting. You know, we have a lot of gains to some pretty low numbers. And then I'm also excited to just kind of see the liquidity that we've been building increase. You know, I think a lot of people aren't noticing the amount of LP ads that we're doing at these low levels with Pulse. You know, $700 every couple of days doesn't seem like a lot, but it's a good chunk of tokens getting put in there that at some point is going to get revalued. The buy and burns that we've been able to do down here, I think, is something very special that we're taking advantage of as well. And the value of those tokens, you know, maybe is $5,000 a week now of buy and burns, or $8,000 a week of buy and burns now, I think is what our weekly is. But back at all times highs, that's $80,000 of buy and burns. And also the community, how the community comes out of here is like what the new distribution is. The big players that have kind of pushed the price, a lot of them will be out or at least thinned out. And some of the tokens that we're bonded to, how those will look as well. You know, I think Pulse Chain coming out of this low, PulseX coming out of this low, Hex coming out of this low, hopefully Richard coming out of this low, showing some activity, some bullish marketing strategies, stuff like that, I think can all start to add up and create a massive move for us on Pulse Chain. That's what we need. We need like a big move as an entire community to bring in new users to this chain. This isn't just for pTGC. Even if you're not in pTGC, like we kind of need all those stars to align to kind of create our own season here. And I do think we can have a massive season to where we're onboarding and educating and actually getting some momentum to the upside, like HEX 2021.
Yeah.
And I do think it's interesting that prices are so low that technically anyone who's been onboarded throughout the last 5 years has the opportunity to build big bags of anything they think is going to be a winner on this chain.
Oh yeah, man.
It really doesn't matter what you have is the opportunity of, I think pTGC is going to be a winner. Well, you have the opportunity to build that bag. You've been given time, you've been given low prices, pretty much are able to build a very, very nice size bag as long as you're still like working and you're trying to find ways to DCA. It doesn't even need to be pTGC. It could be a Pulse X, it could be a HEX.
Did he cut off, Barry?
Yes.
Zen, you're fading it out, brother.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yep, can now.
Okay. Yeah, I was just saying that Pulse Chain is super unique with this 95% discount because everything on chain is connected to Pulse Chain. So you pretty much have a massive 95% discount on anything you could want. And you've had the time to study everything. You've had the time to study code, communities, and everyone can place their bets, right? And I personally think that's where the opportunity lies for people that are on Pulse Chain, because most people don't know Pulse Chain exists. So most people don't even have the ability to place a bet because they're not here. They don't see the opportunity. They won't see the opportunity probably until Pulse Chain's back at SAC price and moving up. For the people here, it obviously hurts. You know, a lot of people are down on their portfolios by a lot. But where the opportunity lies is you've been here, you've been paying attention, and you're able to place your bets on the products you think will be successful based on the knowledge you have. And it's a big difference when you put in 10K and when retail or when general people even start finding out about Pulse, real value starts coming or moving into Pulse Chain. If you're already up 20x on your bag of pTGC, let's say, you know, you put $10,000 in, now you're sitting on $200,000. Well, you're sitting on $200,000 of a token that probably a lot of the money flowing in at this point wants to get their hands on, barely any of it out there. Second, it's deflationary. You know, there's less and less supply every single day, and it's paying you APY. Just a simple 10x puts you at 2 million. Now you're sitting on $2 million, and again, all those same features. You can make the decision to take some profits. You know, you can make the decision just to take profits out of APY. You can scrape some off the top because we'll also be one of the most liquid tokens on chain. You know, we've proven that. We show our LP compared to even RH's tokens themselves. You know, we're getting there on even competing with them, and we're never going to stop trying to grow those LPs. So I think the setup that we're creating here is just the opportunity of a lifetime, like you were saying earlier, to reward. Like, I don't know of anything that really exists in cryptocurrency like this.
Well, I'm just saying that I think at this point, like, you know, whatever amount of capital you have that you want to go in with, it's just a phenomenal place to start, right? It's not advice, but it's just a strategic way. Instead of trying to guess things, it's just a very simple strategic way. Okay, I'm gonna take a quarter of it, put it in now. If it goes to 25, put in a quarter. If it goes to 20, put in a quarter. If it goes to 15, put in a quarter. And you just get this phenomenal price at the bottom. You don't have to guess. It averages out to just be this amazing. You could basically say you bought the bottom when you do that, because it's just down there at this point. And then you have all of the metrics and all the KPIs and the distribution and the lows of all the things in the LPs and everything backing that. Plus you have the revenue generation of the system, and you have the DAO, and you have new users, and you're about to front run a reversal at some point because the market's always reverse. Remember, crypto didn't give a crap about the whole world shutting down in 2020. It exploded during COVID. Crypto has the ability to explode when the world is literally shutting down. It's just very interesting. But yeah, I just think it's a very practical way to look at it down here. The really thing is, we're the people that are in this space right now, we're just all basically going to church on Saturday, right? It's the same people for the most part. And I think it's like what you say, Zen, bringing in some new converts to church is really the way you start seeing that distribution and that chart moving up, because the system's doing as much as it possibly can right now, which is very unique and very powerful, right? The system is kicking ass and taking names. You actually have a system. What is the revenue generation over the last 90 days? Prairie, I'm not at the computer, but do you know how much revenue has been generated over the last 3 months? Well, we've been in this super low volume.
Let's see. Let me get my eyes on it. I don't think I can pull up a 90-day. Zen, is that on goptgc.com? Do we got a 90-day? Yeah, here we go.
You have a 90-day on there. We have up to a year on, or you have up to 90 days even on Shaka's, the ptgc.ufo.com. If you want anything
200
90 days, you have to go to GoPTGC.
Okay. It's $208,000 in fees collected in the last 90 days. On pTGC. Is that not what you were after, Mando?
Yeah, so that's perfect. So out of that, you got 22 grand basically on an auto buy and burn, right? And you've got 85, almost 90 grand that went to the DAO, right? So, and this is just like super low environment. So on top of all these amazing KPIs, you have the DAO doing its thing. You have the system doing its thing. The chain we've been talking about. It's like the biggest sacrifices are already down 75%. So it just seems to me like if you were ever going to start a strategy to take a position or to add to your position, it would be now. You would just take whatever amount you want to put in, and you would say, I'm going to put this much in here. I'm going to put this much in here. And then you would literally be able to say, I actually bought the Pico bottom, because you didn't try to guess. You just hit targets, and then you averaged out the mean of the bottom. Yeah. So you can literally just say, I averaged the mean of what I bought at the bottom. And basically, you bought the bottom without buying it on the exact wick, right? And that's what we are. Because the math just doesn't support, without somebody abnormally, that has a large amount, just wicking it down to a $10 million market cap real quick because they had some emergency or something, which that could always happen. But I'll tell you, we would love to see that happen in a way, to be honest with you, Zen. That would be pretty crazy. But I'm just saying, I think that's a great strategy for new people that you're talking about, because the risk down here is so much lower, to be able to onboard and say, hey, if you have an appetite for some risk, for some speculation, this thing is phenomenal. and take what you got. Here's your little strategy of coming in at lower prices. Pretty much how you do it down here, man. Thing can't stay down here forever.
Yeah, the general market isn't going to be down here forever. If you think it's down here forever, well, you don't believe in cryptocurrency as a whole. We're getting massive adoption right now. And I personally look at, like, if you got introduced to pTGC at this level, I just feel like that opportunity is so amazing. Like, you haven't been on the journey, which, for a lot of people, I think has been tough on Pulse Chain, but you're exposing yourself to pTGC with the distribution, with the buy and burns, with the larger community, and then with the cores being sucked down so low, in conjunction with ETH and Bitcoin being sucked down very low as well. And I just feel like the suppression of pTGC is so strong at this level that everything in cryptocurrency could pop at any moment. Could take 6 months, could take a month, could take a week, who knows? But there is a time where I think things start to give, and we're going to have a massive season, especially because we didn't have that really last cycle. Even the alt season last cycle in general was very, very weak compared to the previous cycle. And that could mean in general, alt seasons are getting less and less. I think that's, in my opinion, the case. That's why I think finding the products that can actually do those extreme amounts of X's in an environment that probably is producing less X's than the previous cycle is very important. pTGC has proven to be able to do that. But also just making sure that you're exposed at the right time. And a no coiner or IRL person being put into pTGC here, what they're risking, they're not even risking all the funds, in my opinion. People really can't go to zero. It's already on a huge discount. But what you're exposing them to as far as upside potential, even on the modest levels, is life-changing. If someone, let's say, came in with $5,000, pTGC does a 10x against Pulse Chain does a 10x, it's 100x to $5,000. They're now sitting on $500,000. Like, for a normal, just got onboarded randomly, a friend from work or whatever, and they're maybe not even tracking it. They throw it in and kind of walk away for a few months. And so they come back and you're telling them, oh yeah, your portfolio is worth this. That's life-changing for these people.
Yeah. And another thing, Zen, if you look at the price, if you go all the way back to, what month was that? February 29th of 2024. The price is essentially the exact same price right now as it was February 29th of 2024. And it has come down and tapped this range 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 times now. So over the course of, let me go on the monthly, let's go on the weekly. Talking about 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, almost 20 weeks, actually 23 weeks of, we're in the same channel, essentially. So if I put a low here and I create another channel here, we've been in a channel now in terms of price for about 23 weeks. Now, that generally is going to signify that a support level, a floor. The more times that, the more times the price tests, hits and rejects without breaking through, the stronger and more significant the support becomes, right? So what I think that we're just witnessing, man, is we're witnessing an obvious bottom. We're witnessing an obvious and yes, it could break support, but what this means is that anything that's below here, because we've been in this channel going sideways for 22 weeks, anything that breaks below here is going to be very short-lived. That's technically what that means, barring some, Armageddon situation.
Yeah.
So I do think that it is time for everybody to get a little bit of excited about crypto and get a little bit of believability back not about Pulse Chain, not about Richard Hart, but about the Gray's currency. I think that we have to understand that we have the ability to go and pull legacy assets in on a very safe blockchain, connect it to the Grays. Everything is working really, really nicely right now. I'm excited about seeing a massive Ethereum pairing with the Grays. I'm excited about seeing some Bitcoin pairings. I'm excited about seeing maybe some more ProveX, as crazy as that sounds. But I don't want to buy into some FOMO stuff, because that's just stupid with Richard's products. They have to prove themselves, right? So, but 22 weeks of sideways in a channel represents a floor. So anything that goes below that 22-week channel represents an opportunity that will be very short-lived, in my opinion. So from here down is just the swap meet of swap meet prices on this product. When we just pulled that information for the $214,000 in revenue generated, it was over 90 days. And that was on a cumulative like $4.3 million of volume. I want you to think about that, Zen and Prairie. 90 days, $4.3 million of volume. We were having $1 million volume days, 500,000 days, not over 90 days, but days. So I think that people can tend to just forget like what this machine actually is built to do, because it's, we're in a bear market.
Yep.
And I think it's going to look very different than it did the first time around, starting at a $30 million market cap. How could it not? With the amount of users that's been added.
Yeah.
And where Pulse Chain is sitting right now, like you're saying, you don't need to get excited about Pulse Chain, but get excited about pTGC and what we can do from here. But one thing I am excited of with Pulse Chain isn't necessarily the price movement up, but the fact that we've already absorbed so much price movement down, right? So like we've already been hit so hard from Pulse Chain. Like what more can it even do to us? Like what are we afraid of? It sitting down here for a little bit longer? Like that is look what we've had to go through today. So I'm excited that Pulse Chain's already gone so low, and it's sitting so low. Even if it doesn't start moving up here instantly, at least does feel like a close to bottom. It's a lot better than us sitting at a 30 mil market cap and Pulse Chain sitting at 4 zeros and a 7. We're sitting at 5 zeros and
yeah, it's definitely getting there, dude.
Yeah, and I think, the value generation that we're able to do down here, $200,000 in 90 days. Like we've done a lot more than that in the past at higher numbers. But look at it in quantity of tokens sometimes instead of dollar figures. And what we're doing in quantity of tokens down here is not too far off what we were producing at the top. You know, the amount of PLS we've been able to put into the LP, the amount of PLS that we're actually generating on a daily basis, the PLS is worth horrible compared to what it used to be worth. Yeah. But if you believe that eventually the price of Pulse will go back up to those levels, you can't overlook the value that we're generating, because it's still in Pulse. Like, that's what's interesting about blockchain, is everything's in that gas token for the most part. Everything's connected to that. Even look at what we're buying and burning in pTGC, or what we're rewarding in pTGC in quantity of tokens. It's almost the same, right? Because the price has dropped with the volume, but the work is still being done, and no one's noticing the work right now because everything compares cryptocurrency to dollar values. So when you're doing $200,000 every 90 days, no one's really paying attention. It gets off their radar. But it's the same amount of work that's been put in at the top, but at the top it catches people's radar because it's $2 million of revenue generation. You know, the bigger numbers start to get people's attention, but the work is still being done, and it's been being done for, you know, let's say since our all-time highs, it's been a year and 2 months, or technically a year and 2 months. That's another reason why I'm super bullish on these prices, because I do think things have to bounce here soon. We have Pulsion that's been in a downtrend for 3 years. I do think things have to bounce here soon, but the work has been being done every single day. Every single day goes on what we generated, and you get to know, okay, that value got put into the system. Is that APY for the people who have bags that incentivize long-term hodling, which is pretty much dead in cryptocurrency? Like, no one's long-term hodlers anymore. Well, we have incentivizations for that. Is it going to buy and burn, pretty much adding tokens to the strongest hands that exist? We have value going to that. And at these low prices, even though it seems like little dollar amounts, you know, yesterday, I think it was $1,500. You know, it doesn't seem like a crazy amount, but it's more about the quantity of tokens. You know, that was 10 million plus of pTGC. I think it was like 13 million of pTGC or something. A lot of pTGC tokens when we go back to all-time highs that were removed for pretty much nothing. So I do think pressure is building, and no one can actually see it yet because everything is so suppressed.
Yeah.
But when we get pTGC's reversal, along with ETH reversal, Bitcoin's reversal, and, you know, Pulse Chain's reversal, the amount of work the code has put in at these levels, the amount of work that Banana has put in at these levels, the amount of work, Mando, you put in, the amount of work Shock has put in, you know, the amount of work everyone, the entire community has put in at these levels. If that's from onboarding, if that's from building tools, if that's from building content for the entire community to use, it's all adding up. And it's creating, in my opinion, so much pressure that when that resistance finally breaks, pTGC is going to do some massive things.
Yeah, man. 100%.
Yeah, so I just posted in the TG an image of the 22 weeks in the channel, and it just says, in technical analysis, when a token repeatedly hits the same low level 3 or 4 times and bounces each time, it usually indicates the formation of strengthening of a strong support level. And I grokked this, by the way. This wasn't. This is often a bullish signal showing that buyers are stepping in to defend the price floor. The more times the level is tested without breaking, the more significant it becomes. It can set up patterns like a triple bottom. In this situation, it's like a quadruple bottom, suggesting a potential reversal higher, especially if volume increases on the bounces. Classic buy the dip zone, but always stop in DCA below the support. So, it's definitely for, like, all I know, man, is that there's not another cryptocurrency that exists like Grace. There's just not. The system is generating $214,000 of revenue every 90 days at like $30,000 day, $20,000 day volume. That is absolutely insane. I would love to own a company that's generating me almost $250,000 cash flow, no overhead every 90 days, with like 2 people walking through my building a week. That's basically like what the equivalent is, right? Like if you owned a restaurant,
oh man,
$20,000 a day. Well, $20,000 a day to a restaurant is good money, actually. But you get my, you know what I'm saying, Prairie?
Gross.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I just, here's the thing. A lot of people don't remember because they didn't watch the system closely. They don't remember because they didn't watch close enough how this thing acts when the system, and frankly, we didn't have these tools. We didn't have the new website. We didn't have, pTGC-UFO to really track as beautifully as it is now. But I remember watching this system generate billions of pulse chain, billions of, and I'm talking at way higher levels, so fast. The system was generating so much revenue so fast that we couldn't even get enough proposals in the system to pull it. Now we're sitting here and the system is, look at the amount of pulse chain we're getting. Zen, let me ask you this. Here's an interesting metric. The amount of pulse chain we're bringing in now in PLS terms, it would be interesting to see, to configure like what we were making.
I know what you're getting at. That was my point.
Yes.
I was getting at is the amount of pulse chain we're bringing in now is the exact same as what we're bringing in at the top. The value of that pulse chain.
Huge, bro. No, go ahead. Sorry to cut you off, but that's the point, right?
Yeah, that's the point. The value that we're bringing in now in quantity of tokens is the same as what we were doing at the all-time high, which is difficult because look at how dead the chain is, But the PLS that's coming in PLS, not in dollar value terms, we're doing the same. The amount of tokens we're buying and burning, we're doing the same. It's just everyone's looking at that as dollar values. But if you believe Pulse Chain is going back to those levels for the entire last year and a half, actually producing the same amount of PLS volume than we were producing at the all-time high. And the pressure that we're building behind the protocol with doing that consistently for an entire year and a half is adding up. Just no one realizes it.
Yeah, when you're stacking the same amount of the native token of the chain at these levels with $20,000-$30,000 of volume a day, as you were at all-time highs doing, $500,000 to $2 million of volume a day, it's astronomical what's happening under the hood of the system that nobody can see. You know when I always post that, well, not always, but when I post that GIF, that GIF of the volcano is like churning up the lava underneath. It looks like it's about to explode. That's what I feel like, we're sitting on. We're sitting on top of something that's generating so much energy underneath. But only certain people know it. Only certain people understand it,
Yeah, this is a pretty easy way to look at it, and it actually checks the boxes of what we even predicted earlier. And we had less information then, but we have more information now. When we were at prices of pulse chain roughly 4 zeros and a 7, the pTGC system was producing roughly $500,000 of volume daily. Currently, we are 10x lower than that on pulse chain right now. Now we're 5 zeros and a 7. And what we're producing on average is $50,000 a day. That's like our average daily volume, like 47. So what we are finding is our volume almost tracks perfectly with the price of pulse chain. And this makes sense because this means users move more money. This means arbitrage bots move more money. This means more users in. So it actually helps us make very educated guesses of not only what it can produce here consistently, but also what it could produce at levels we've been before, if we get back to the 407, or also if pulse chain has any sort of success. Like for an example, let's say pulse chain goes to 3 zeros and a 3, which we've been before. I think that's roughly a 50x from where we are right now. So if we 50x our volume, because we've actually have 2.5 years of data showing that when pulse chain's up amount of X's, pretty much so is our volume on average. So you have 50,000 times 50, which puts you at $2.5 million a day of volume. And we've talked about numbers like this on a regular. What kind of ROI can you be receiving if we're at $2.5 million a day of volume? If you increase your position size at the cheap prices where we are right now, you can actually be earning some pretty good passive income if you work on getting the quantity of tokens in your wallet up when prices are cheap. These are the opportunities we're facing right now. It's not only about the X's, but also increasing your position because that's your minor of your share of the volume revenue. But back to my point is, let's say we can get pulse chain up to those levels. Again, 3x that are 5-6 levels we've seen before on pulse chain. If we 50x our volume because we actually have the data to show that that's most likely the likely solution, that means on a 30-day basis, that's $75 million in volume. And then if you times that by 0.05, which would be our revenue generation, that would mean pTGC is generating $3.7 million a month in revenue generation. And this is based on historical data and the code. If we're generating $3.7 million, and let's say
it was 1.3 million, right? 1.3 million?
$3.7 million a month in revenue generation.
Oh, wow. Okay, got you.
Yeah. And then let's say 40% of that is buy pressure on pTGC. That could be coming from buying and rewarding to holders or stakers and it just not being sold instantly. That could be LP buys and then sends to contracts, which is half and half PLS and PPC. This could be buy and burns. This could be buys with the DAO and send to affiliates, or buy and burns, or buy in LPs. You know, I think a 40% is a very good number to kind of work with. That would be $1.5 million of code buy pressure on the chart monthly.
How much?
$1.5 million.
Yeah, so $1.5 million worth of pulse injected into pTGC right now. I think it bumps the price by like 80%. I don't know if that's correct. Maybe you can take a look, Barry, on the calculator you have.
You said 1.75 million?
I think you said 1.5 million a month injected into the chart.
Yeah, but you have to realize that's going to be at higher liquidity levels, which will do less, but it still creates great sustainability, right? And that's really the point I was getting at, is that's why I think it's going to proven to be a better system as we do those X's is the constant buy pressure on the chart by the code creates a lot of sustainability for the people who are holding. And that's what people want in something that they're holding a lot of and they're holding a lot of value in, is they want that sustainability factor constantly being pushed into the protocol that they're holding. I think this is what's really going to separate pTGC from pretty much everything else. It's technically a buyer of 1.5 million every month that, to an extent, a portion of that will never be sold again.
$1.5 million into Pulse right now and 3x the price.
That is insane. That's such little amount of money, Zed.
Mm-hmm.
You're talking 3x the price on the grays with just $1.5 million.
Mm-hmm.
Is that right?
Yeah, the opportunity that Pulse Chain is giving pTGC right now with draining the liquidity and dollar value gives our community the opportunity to pretty much do as many X's against Pulse Chain as we can with just hard effort, with just onboarding, educating, DCAing. The amount of X's we can do against Pulse Chain right now through the effort of the community, the code, is, in my opinion, a once in a lifetime opportunity for the grays, for this community. Because I think once we get out of these low prices and head up again, I don't think we're ever coming back here. How long we're down here for, who knows?
Can you hear me?
I hear you now.
Yeah, my son called me. Yeah, I just think that's absolutely phenomenal, dude. And I know, and I believe 100%. Did you see Richard's post the other day? He tweeted to the Ethereum Foundation. He's like, "Yeah, it's rumored that I have more Ethereum than you now." Per, are you there?
Yeah, I'm here. I'm just reading something on X.
Yeah, no, I just asked. I don't know if Zen's cut off or what. It's just kind of weird on mine. But I heard when Richard said the other day he was kind of trolling the Ethereum Foundation, and he's like, "Yeah, it's rumored that I have more Ethereum than you now." That was pretty funny.
Yeah, I did see that post. You know, it's definitely interesting. Obviously, we don't have the ability to track those wallets.
Thank God.
For the best. Do you say I'm cutting?
Oh no! I just said thank God that we don't have the ability to track it. I can't stand these wallet tracker guys. You know.
Yeah. So we can't track it, but I don't. The large majority of it has gone anywhere. It was over $1 billion, I think, at 4K Ethereum. And when you look at where Pulse Chain is now and what it takes to get those wallets into, let's say, 160 and what the smallest fraction of that ETH could do to Pulse Chain here, and what kind of waves that could create within this system and what kind of onboarding we could do with that. Like, the X's are just insane. And that's just a 3X on ETH. So you have a 3X on Ethereum. That's Ethereum pretty much 6K. Not, it's legacy value, tons of liquidity. Like, obviously there's value there. But the X value for like an average person, if Ethereum did a 3X, and let's say even Bitcoin did a 3X, because that would put Bitcoin at, $200,000, pretty much over $200,000, $210,000. That's just 3X's on both of those tokens, which a lot of people, especially with where their portfolios are right now, are not in cryptocurrency for a 3X. They want a lot more. And that's where I think Pulse Chain just offers this amazing opportunity, not the Pulse Chain itself, but for the alt tokens on the chain, like pTGC. If Ethereum does a 3X, I personally believe Pulse Chain at that point's easily, back to that 407 number. That's 10X from these levels, if not more, in my personal opinion. Because the capital that his reserve would be sitting on at that point is just like laughable to an extent. And I personally believe Richard looks at this blockchain almost as a business venture, a legacy business venture for himself. And obviously the success of the chain creates more of a successful business for Richard, which should equal more value for Richard, because who's the biggest holder of the chain? It's him. So wouldn't you think that the biggest holder wants to increase the value of the thing he holds so much of? Like, he's financially incentivized to do so.
Oh, absolutely. And let me tell you, it ain't free. It's not free to keep this chain going. It is a business. There's no question about it.
And right now he's not getting glory from it and this and that. He's not most likely making a ton of money off of it. At least he would make more if prices moving up. So if someone has something they put, let's say, the good portion of the last 10 years of their life into it, adding up to this point, they're sitting on this massive amount of Ethereum, and a fraction of that Ethereum can make this business venture that he's spent at least, I would say, the last 4 years of his life on successful. I think there's a good chance that something happens there. And again, it doesn't need to take much for Ethereum at 6K for us to get back to, I believe, a 10X from here. And again, like, those extra X's really matter. A 10X on Pulse Chain for pTGC really matters. Like, especially if we do growth in the meantime. We've done growth every time Pulse Chain has moved up. Let's say we did a 10X again, Pulse Chain just going there. The people taking action at these prices could very easily be up 100X. And a lot of times in protocols that you could do 100X in, people aren't putting a lot of value in because they're so speculative, right? It's like this meme token that could dump tomorrow, but maybe they get that next runner. Where pTGC, I think, stands out a little differently is, but with 2.5 years of a track record, with some of the biggest liquidity on chain, with a massive community that has proven that they're not going anywhere. You can put a little bit more in with less risk, especially at the 95% discount we're at right now, and still have the potential to do the X's of some of the riskiest gambling plays in cryptocurrency.
Prairie, you earlier said something about maybe you had a question that came up on YouTube or something, and you kind of got cut off there.
No, I don't have any questions. No, there are no questions on YouTube presently. Okay. I was referring to a post I'm reading on X. I'll send you a link to it. I think you'll find it amusing.
Anybody else want to come up and speak? Say hi.
I'll say hi.
Thanks, man. Appreciate it. We got one guy.
Yeah, man.
I was hoping it would be you. What's up, bro?
Nothing. The one thing, you want to know something? The one thing that I never really got with Richard and all that ETH is why he never really staked it. I mean, he could have gotten rid of so many whales just by feeding, even if he took 90% of the stake and put it back into the chain and kept 10% to grow the initial value of the ETH. He could have got rid of so many people and accelerated the price of the chain. I never understood why he didn't do that.
The only thing that I can think of is like risk. The risk of something going wrong. I don't know. Because what else would make sense? When you can just generate revenue for free, basically, right?
And then dump it back into the chain. I mean, you're talking, between 10 and 15 million a year into the chain for free.
Well, but if you think about it, that's still possible. That's still there and available, right? With that amount of ETH. And that's why it's kind of like, Mika, it's like, it amazes me that people don't have a longer vision for Pulse Chain, especially when we know that the world financially is trusting Ethereum with stable coins because as the most decentralized blockchain that can handle smart contracts and programmable money.
Can you imagine, just for a second, him putting out a post that I'm staking all of the ETH and I'm going to be making 10 to 15 millionaires per year for free while growing the DOA? Can you imagine him coming out and saying that?
Yeah, I don't know if he'd ever say I'm going to be making anything because that's the expectation of profit. But I see what you're saying. He doesn't even need to say it like that. He could just word it in a way where it's implied, right?
Yeah, looks like the Ethereum is being staked, and I guess one of the possibilities might be that that $10 million is going to be going into Pulse Chain.
Exactly.
Now all of a sudden people are like, "Ooh, 10 million?"
Yeah, but I think he doesn't even need to take on the risk of staking it, whatever he'd probably have to eliminate self-custody to an extent to do that. And then he's putting that value at risk, and that value is like really what he's got. So I think it's important to kind of think of it as like, he doesn't even need to do that. He could literally just use a portion of that ETH every single year. Let's say like you gave the number of like 20 million. If he just every single year scraped off 20 million off of that ETH, judging by the trajectory of ETH, he would never even come close to using half of the Ethereum, because Ethereum's price would be rising throughout the next, let's say, 10 years. So even though he's taking 20 million off, he's actually never even getting close to even touching like the value that he put in once we cross this 4 million or this $4,000 ETH level. Like for example, if ETH got to 8K, well, he's got $2 billion. So why would he risk the value for that small APY, especially due to that he's a wanted person? There's potential freeze functions within other smart contracts and stuff like that, to where instead he could just literally just take some off the table and push it into his chain and create his glory that way, especially if that waiting period has washed 90% of the major sacrificers out at prices lower than they gave him the ETH at.
Yeah, that's actually a valid point with that.
With the rising price of ETH.
With the freezing. If he transferred it to his that might all be part of this ProveX thing. I mean, he might be working in the background with that. We don't know.
Yeah, maybe he's trying to build his own places to put the ETH and have it work for him, and then he can earn off of it that way. And he knows he won't freeze his own assets.
So when you become a validator on ETH, you get to keep self custody because you're just a validator, right? They're slashing risk and stuff like that, but you could just become a validator, man. It takes 32 Ethereum to become a validator. So he could literally fire up almost 14,000 validators on Ethereum with that full amount if you just use the full amount.
Yeah, if there's no risk, then you guys are 100% right. Then why you could technically validate with it, and if there's no risk, then take what you earn and push that into the chain. You never have to even give up your Ethereum. It could be yours forever. I was just more even talking about, like, if he's delaying gratification and ETH is successful, he could still take portions of that Ethereum in dollar value, 20 million, and never even come close to spending half of it in his lifetime.
Yeah, but free money is still free money. And we're not talking about chump change. We're talking, 10, 50, as it goes up, 20 million, 40 million, free. And if he only used 90% of that and put 10% back in, he would be growing the OA, growing the chain. I mean, it's mind-boggling that he's not doing that. It's literally mind-boggling that he's not doing that.
I think for him, brother, it's more of, let's wait a little while and let's see what options come out that are the best options that minimize the risk. If it's just validation, fine. But like, if you're trying to go into like something like a rocket pool, where you have to give up self-custody of your assets to get at this yield. He's never going to do that.
No, but like you were saying, he could just become a validator, and that's self-custody anyway.
Yes, that is self-custody, 100%.
But I do think it has something to do with the previous conversation of taking that E, locking it. What do they call it? Freezing it. I think right now he's very secure in the way that he has it, that it can't be frozen. And if he does something different, we don't know the laws of every single country and what they can actually do.
Yeah, and I'll be honest, I actually think that is the reason why it was swapped into ETH at a certain level, because it was sitting in, I believe a lot of it was sitting in USDC. Maybe it was DAI. But there was an issue, I'll just forget about that. It doesn't even matter. What the premise of the whole conversation now is the options available to the founder of Pulse Chain with the amount of Ethereum that he owns, looking forward to the upward, trend of Ethereum and just where crypto's going in general, people counting out Richard and what he can do with the chain, and the fact that Ethereum is becoming the go-to chain because it's the most decentralized and trusted, in terms of smart contract availability. And this is a direct fork of that, and you can suck in all of the things that come to Ethereum. In the future, the next generation of people that come online, this is an option, and then you have the ability for Richard to come back or do whatever he does, and we don't like to talk about relying on Richard, but he is the founder of the chain. And it's not like you have a broke joke founder that doesn't have pivotability, strategy, capital, the ability to do things. I mean, geez, he crushed the SEC, man. So I think it's just timing. But that's why pTGC is like just the speculation of speculations, bro.
Yeah, the timing thing's interesting because if everyone else is just waiting on the timing of Richard, and in pTGC, we're also waiting, for Pulse Chain's revaluation and Pulse X and Hex, and we hope that something happens there. from the community and hopefully from Richard as well. But with that time, if that's, you know, we've had 2 years now or 2.5 years with pTGC, we've obviously done a lot with that time. And to even think that, what if it takes another 2 years? Well, in pTGC, there's so much we can do in that time. Even if it's not in price, it could be in distribution. I hope it's in price. Like, obviously, that's would be awesome for us to just keep doing X's. But let's take that idea away. There's so much other things we can do. We can do distribution. We can buy and burn supply. We can add LP. We can generate revenue every single day at the bottom until that time is right. And when the time is right, we're that much stronger and we have that much larger of a foundation to support the growth of this ecosystem when the time comes. I personally think price is going to come also, but I just feel like that's the instant one everyone's mind goes to, is like, oh, what kind of price movement can we do up in the meantime? Well, we've done tons of price movement. We can do tons of price. We can do a lot more price movement. If we just focus on increasing the community size, our price would be a lot higher. You know, if you increase the community size, price goes higher. It's as simple as that. But take away even thinking about price. It's about distribution. It's about buying birds. It's about LP ads. And if we believe in Richard as a founder and we believe it's just a timing thing, well, we possibly have some time. And why just wait around and have your portfolio wait around for that time to hit when there's so much we can do with this time? And we've done a lot with the time already.
Yep.
How are we looking on time, dude?
If everyone else is done, I'm ready to shut it down. We're at 2 hours.
Prairie?
I'm looking for some comments on YouTube. PTDC Maxi asks a question. Will PTDC's Peacock be approved for the upcoming airdrop from Liberty Swap's new wallet? Just wondered, since it's an LP. Probably not.
I would guess not either. But I have no idea.
Okay, there's nothing else on YouTube.
Cool. Yeah, I'm ready to shut it down if you guys are.
It's getting exciting. We're getting down to the brass tacks, gentlemen. There's no question about it.
Yeah, it feels for sure good to get a good portion of this bear market behind us. You know, knowing Pulse Chain's already down at this level and we're still sitting here fighting, seeing Ethereum down at this level and we're still here fighting, Bitcoin here. Like, I just have to have the feeling that we've pushed through the worst of it. And once we get through the worst of it, it's the good times in front of us. And I'm excited for that. And it does feel good to kind of feel like we have that Band-Aid ripped off as far as price goes. You know, we're Pulse Chain being so low, ETH, in my opinion, being super low, $2,000, considering 5 years ago it was over $4,000 is pretty low. And if Clarity Act gets resolved here soon, if these corporations and companies and governments just keep loading up and building on top of Ethereum, I feel like within 6 months we could be looking at a completely different environment of cryptocurrency.
And just remember, you heard it here first. 60,000 was the bottom.
Nah, man.
Yes, you're not gonna give it to me, are you? You know I called it.
Yeah, you think you called it.
I did.
Let's hope that
Well,
you're right.
Well, that's what I was going to say. But for all of our sakes, let's hope I had a right prediction out of all of the bad predictions that I had.
Let's hope you're right, man. If you're right, we're smooth sailing, dude.
Amen, brother.
Have a good one.
See you guys.
You too. Later, guys.
You, Banana. Thanks for co-hosting.
You bet. My pleasure. We'll see you guys.
Yeah, bye.
Okay. So Charles has a question. If you guys want to hang out, you can. I'm addressing some FUD. I don't know if you're here, David, but I was reviewing that tweet that you sent to me. If you guys want to have a look at it, it's on Rackham's X. He made an anti-PDI and pTGC tweet. What will they say when Hex does another 10,000X? It was a long article too. He really is, I don't know, bipolar. Because he was into pTGC and now he's not. What will they say when Hex does another 10,000X? What will pTGC do when Hex does another 10,000X? So you're not after a price. You're just asking, like, what will people do? Because I think you were referring to the conversation we had just a few minutes ago. Yeah. What will they say? Good grief, man. You know how fickle people are? Like, they'll be so against like Hex and this and that, or Pulse Chain, Richard Hart. But the moment that Hex or Pulse Chain turns bullish, oh, they just love Pulse Chain, Richard Hart. Suddenly they love Hex, all the assets on Pulse Chain. With just the sentiment is really rough right now. But once it flips, man, like, let's say like the chain's down 90% and so is sentiment is down 90%. When the chain is up 90%, sentiment's going to be up 90%. Yeah. Just, people are fickle. pTGC only gets stronger down here. We've been blessed by the bear, so the bull will be wildly explosive. It will. It's going to be crazy. Have fun with Rackham's post. Just be kind. We'll see you guys. Have a good Saturday.